Just a couple of weeks ago, I would have told you the iPhone 12 would be one of the best phones you can buy, at least for the money, and that it wasn't a bad deal, and there's some trade-in deals and other things you can get it for a really good price. But today, just a couple of days after the iPhone 13 has been announced and will be released here in a couple of days, I'm telling you, do not buy it under any circumstances. I'm telling you right now, if you buy it, and look at me in my eyes, if you buy the iPhone 12, I'm coming to your house, I'm going to snatch it out of your hand, and I'm throwing it in the trash. Don't do it. Now, I know you're wondering, well, what are you talking about? It was great just a couple of weeks ago. Why is it not now? Well, if you're new here to the channel, I have something to tell you. I'm going to tell you all about it right after this.
This is, you listening to Travis.
What up, players? Welcome back. And for all you new people, welcome. My name's Travis and I do tech videos every single week and have a blast doing them. And today we're going to talk about the iPhone 12 and why you shouldn't buy it. You better not buy it. Don't you dare buy it. So I just did a couple of videos on the iPhone 13 and the things you should watch out for, who the phone is not for, who the phone is for, and some other things. I'll leave links to those videos in the description below. Make sure you check them out. And let's get into this because the iPhone 12, while an amazing phone, right now is just not a good deal. But before I tell you why, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that like button if you've been here before, and let me know why you would potentially buy an iPhone 12 despite the fact I'm telling you not to do it. I know you're not going to do it after I show you why, but why would you right now? Why, if you were to do it, why were you going to do it before I stopped you? So here we are, the iPhone 12, we're landing page here on Apple where you can still buy it. Now, an interesting thing happens whenever Apple releases new phones. They give you the option of buying some older phones for a discounted price. And this year they've had so many to choose from that like the price range is really good. It goes all the way down to the iPhone SE and of course the iPhone 12 is here. The iPhone 11 is another option. I'm gonna talk about why I didn't select the iPhone 11 as the one to not buy, and it's mostly to do with price. But when you get to the iPhone 12, you look at what is being offered by Apple, this actually and weirdly becomes perhaps the worst value in general. Now to explain this, I'm just going to go through Apple's site and we're going to look at the different comparisons between the 11, 12, and 13. Base models, we're not going to add anything extra to them or anything like that, except for in one case when I explained to you why, but we're not going to use the mini or anything else. I just want you to look at the 11, 12, and 13 as these are the ones that are actually being offered by Apple right now. Now the iPhone 11, which comes in multiple colors, one of the things you will not be getting with this is an OLED display. So right off the bat, OLED display, you're not getting it, but it's at $500. That's not a bad deal for someone who just needs an iPhone. Maybe they need one for travel, or that maybe they're replacing another one. They don't need the absolute cutting edge. For $500, that's not a bad deal. And over, the payment plans that most cellular companies, give you, and I think I looked up T-Mobile in this case, if you're doing 30 months, it's just a little bit over 20 bucks. That's not bad. 20 bucks a month for an iPhone 11, which does great pictures, has an amazing camera, and of course, iOS 15, which is coming out here in a couple of days. The iPhone 12 is next with the OLED display, a bunch of different really cool colors, and again, some of the same things as the iPhone 11, but some better features and slightly better camera. But there's some caveats here because that one starts at $700. And that's why I did not eliminate the iPhone 11, because there's a $200 difference between the 11 and 12. But you're going to find out real quick why the 12 for me is odd man out. And of course the iPhone 13, the cutting edge, we've talked about it many times before. Watch one of the videos I've already done about this. But we're going to do a spec by spec comparison and explain why the iPhone 11 is not a bad deal, the iPhone 13 is not a bad deal, but the iPhone 12 is really just not worth it. We're going to start at the price, and this is why I'm making this video in the first place. When I looked at this, I was like, oh, this is a big deal. We have $499 for the iPhone 11, which is again not a bad price. $699 for the iPhone 12. Now there's a $200 difference between those two, so it's not like you can eliminate one over the other. That's a pretty significant bump of cash there, especially if you're doing this on a type of payment plan. But from the iPhone 12 to the 13, there's only a $100 difference. And actually, the difference is even smaller than that. At first, you might think, well, there's a $100 difference between the two, but when you realize that the iPhone 13 comes with 128 gigs of storage and the iPhone 12 comes with a massive, incredible 64. And if you want 128, you got to pay another $50. So at that point, it's a $50 difference. So right off the bat, when you look at price, $50 difference if you want to do the storage deal, or even if you want to keep it at the 64 base storage and you're just thinking, I'm never going to use that, It's not a good deal. If you take $100 and divide it over the course of 30 months, we're talking about $2-ish a month payment difference. If you're doing a 30-month plan on something like T-Mobile, it's a $2 difference per month. Look, if you can't pay an extra $100 right off the bat, I totally get that. But most people who are looking at older phones, even if they're in new condition, are trying to save money in the first place and are probably paying things over time. And with that, if you're paying only $2 more a month and getting substantially more, which we're going to go over in a minute, this is a no-brainer. And by the way, you might think, well, then if I go for the 11, why don't I just go for the 13? $200 difference does make a big enough difference, and I'm trying to be sensitive to the people who don't have a whole bunch of money and just want to get a new phone. But I'm going to tell you right now, if $100 over 30 months is too much for you, you shouldn't be looking at getting an iPhone. There's other things you need to be concerned with. So let's start here. Of course, the iPhone 11 has the LCD display, and the iPhone 12 and 13 have the Super Retina XDR display. No difference there. Of course, we have 5G across the 12 and 13. Again, we're just going to say the 11 is for people who are really super budget, just trying to keep it cheap and try to get into an iPhone. So again, still recommend that. But over the 12 and 13, we're going to start seeing some changes here. And for $100 or $50, if you want the same storage, it's just not worth saving the $50. Of course, we have the wide and ultra wide, but we have the new cinematic mode on the iPhone 13, which is not on the iPhone 12. Will that come to it in a software update? It is possible. I mean, that could happen. Sometimes Apple does that. But as of right now, it's not there. Of course, Dolby Vision HDR, 30 frames a second on the 12, 60 on the iPhone 13. Again, even if you don't shoot it in that, you still have the option. Why wouldn't you take it? Optical zoom is the same, but the A15 Bionic versus the A14. Now, in everyday use, you're probably not going to see a whole bunch of difference, but where you will see the difference, and it's definitely worth the $50 or $100, is the amount of updates you will get over time over the iPhone 12. So they're both going to get updates for many years to come. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But it could come down to, especially if you want to hold on to this phone for a long time, a couple of extra years you'll get out of the iPhone 13. And if you think about it, taking that $50 or $100 over another 2 or 3 years, we're talking about dimes on years, like dimes, like your dimes a month that you're paying for the difference. It's totally worth it at this point. But let's look at some more. Battery life is where we're really expecting to see a huge difference. And for me, that really explains it all. And if the only difference between the two of these was the battery, I literally would say this is worth the $50 or $100 extra dollars. We say 2 more hours of video playback, but that's consecutive video playback. In a mixed environment where you're doing things and letting it rest and then doing things, you're going to see substantially more battery life on the iPhone 13. Again, totally worth the $50 or $100. Both phones are basically made the same way, both water resistant up to 6 meters for 30 minutes, and they both have MagSafe wireless charging. But again, when we come down to storage capacity, 64 versus 128. If you want to go 128 on the iPhone 12, you're paying an extra $50, and now you're only $50 under the 13, which has the newest technology available. $50 is worth it. The rest of these specs are pretty much exactly the same with the exception of the brightness. The iPhone 13 is now brighter in your typical use case, which means outside, you're going to be able to use it in the sunlight and see it a little bit better. Their peak brightness is exactly the same, which means when you're watching HDR content, it's not going to look any different. But in your day-to-day use, you actually might see it a little bit brighter. So if you work outside in the sunlight and it's been too bright for you to be able to use your iPhone 12, if you've seen other people use it, again, there's literally no reason to buy the iPhone 12. One other difference in the cameras is the sensor shift optical image stabilization, which will help in low light and also when you're doing kind of moving videos and stuff. The iPhone 12 doesn't have that. The iPhone 12 Pro Max did, but they didn't put it in the 12. But that now is standard across all the iPhone 13 phones. An amazing addition. And of course, if you're interested in the new photographic styles that iPhone 13 has, that's an addition. I suspect that actually will come back to the iPhone 12, so it's not really worth the extra cash for that. But with everything else, I mean, this is a no-brainer. And with the exception of cinematic mode, which you can only get on the iPhone 13, again, could be potentially a backwards compatible software update, really, the difference comes down to the battery and the fact you're getting a newer phone with the latest and greatest. Basically, the differences come down to a couple of things. Number one, a better processor, better camera, and perhaps the most important, better battery life for only $50 to $100 more. And while if you're buying it straight out, and most of you are probably not doing that, $50 or $100 might seem like a lot of money. But again, if you're doing it in any type of payment plan, trust me when I tell you, the couple of dollars a month you will spend, in this case, if you're doing it over 30 months, $2 a month, is totally justified. The iPhone 13 is the phone you want unless you're looking for a budget phone like the iPhone 11 at $500. It's a great deal. The iPhone 12 kind of sits in no man's land. There's really no reason for the iPhone 12 to exist right now. So it's a weird thing to always say that Apple needed some new phones to spread across the price range from $1,000 to way under, and then come to find out that basically they've priced themselves out of an option. You don't need the iPhone 12. You should not buy the iPhone 12. Do not buy the iPhone 12. Don't you do it. I told you, I'm coming to your house. I have some other videos I've talked about the iPhone 13, whether it's right for you, and why I bought the iPhone 13 Pro Max. I'll leave a link to those in the description and around here, and I'll see you next time. Peace and love.